Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro is about a nerdy otaku guy who goes to an art club where he really respects his upperclassman who's an actual artist, bordering on professional quality. And he encounters a group of girls in the library where they're not usually there. And when he accidentally spills some manga panels on the ground, encounters an underclassman who starts picking on him for his, let's be honest, a sort of terrible comic. I will say, as far as the sort of meet cute that this show presents, she was right to at least critique the work he was making. Her criticisms were valid. But what happens a lot with the character, with the girl that ends up commenting on his comic, is Nagatoro, which the show is named after, is that, especially in the early parts, she does end up taking her sort of, let's call it, I guess, bullying too far, to the point where in the first 2 episodes, she actually does end up driving him to cry. And at one point, he ends up getting sort of pushed into the water. But she does develop a bit of an interest in him, even so far as the first episode. And you can tell that she went too far and that she was even willing to apologize for it. And she, at least at the end of the season, never actually goes as far as she did in the earlier episodes. In fact, you can see how she tends to treat Senpai, who has a name. Mal is telling me it is Naoto Hachioji. I don't remember a single person calling him by his name the entire show. It is just Senpai basically the entire time, except for when they call him Virgin, which I will say is a common insult that you see in anime and stuff. And it's usually done from Nagatoro herself, who I absolutely refuse to believe is not also a virgin. But we'll get to that in a second, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, so we see her treatment of other men, especially the ones that show interest, and she seems to have a bit of an attraction to his sort of innocence and his, lack of aggression. She seems to be very, vegetarian is the term they used in the show at one point. She seems to be very vegetarian attracted. Basically, her behavior can basically be explained as, a young girl just picking on the boy she likes. And as the show develops, you can tell that she is developing a sort of fondness for him beyond just as a victim, as she starts to chill out, and she develops a sort of possessiveness towards him as their bond expands throughout the course of the show, and he, in turn, develops a sort of possessiveness towards her, a sort of jealousy when she's interacting with men and he's interacting with women. Showing that over the course of the show, even though they start off on very rocky terms, their feelings are actually mutual, and a good portion of the show is dedicated to either character going out of their way to specifically sort of spend more time with the other one. So it definitely is one of the better handled, more mutual relationships, despite the sort of rocky-ish start at the beginning. And watching the characters develop with each other and grow more close, and especially the extra cute ending at the end where he says that he wants to draw her, and then one of the last shots you see in the episode, if not the actual last shot, is an actual drawing he did of her when he was originally incapable of doing it in the early episodes. Shows his development, but also interacting with girls as well, which is something that he had a lot of trouble with at the beginning. See, in the very start of the episode, he had a very sort of incel-y attitude, and she probably saved him from that sort of mindset, in that the second he saw them, they weren't even doing anything. He was just like, oh, these girls are invading my personal space, blah, 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 blah. And then that's sort of when she started picking on him. Now, I don't know how much she guessed his internal monologue, but she was painting his picture pretty damn well in the initial start of the episode. So, yeah, but he definitely leaves behind that mindset and becomes a lot more friendly, not just with her, but with other girls, with his upperclassmen, and with her friends throughout the course. So both characters definitely develop pretty substantially throughout the course of it, and watching their interactions is also adorable. An appreciation I do have for Nagatoro is the fact that she very clearly, despite always making fun of him for being a virgin, is almost certainly one herself, or very inexperienced at the very least, because the second he manages to actually go along with her sort of sexual teasing, and he flips the tables on her, she immediately breaks down. I do appreciate that the show never really delves too much into slapstick. There's some hints about it, there's some scenes where she's hitting him, but I think the implication even in that is that he's not really reacting with pain, so it's sort of a joking pat. I think he only gets hit one actual time, and it's when he, like, actually, like, touched her boob, and she was, like, not happy about that. You could say that that scene was mostly her fault, and it was, but I'm willing to more forgive a genuine reaction when it isn't the show's entire gimmick to delve into outdated slapstick. Regardless, what Nagatoro ends up surprisingly doing is turning what could have been an absolutely disastrous premise into a surprisingly entertaining and cute, enjoyable romance series. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye!